A 1,000-mile journey begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. There is a reason Japan consistently ranks among the healthiest, longest-living, and most disciplined societies on Earth, and it has almost nothing to do with genetics. It has to do with habits. Not complicated routines, not extreme lifestyles, just small daily practices that most people would overlook entirely. In this video, you're going to learn 9 of these habits, each one rooted in centuries of Japanese philosophy, from the Okinawan principle that may be the single greatest dietary secret ever discovered, to the samurai tradition of silent reflection that neuroscience now confirms physically rewires your brain, to a 15th century art form that teaches you how to turn your worst failures into your greatest strengths. These are not surface-level ideas. These are real principles that have shaped an entire civilization, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how to use them. Let's begin. Habit 1. Kaizen, the power of getting 1% better. After World War II, Japan's economy was in ruins. Factories were destroyed. Resources were almost non-existent. American industrial advisors came in and introduced an idea that seemed almost too simple to work. Instead of trying to rebuild everything at once, just make one small improvement every single day. The Japanese didn't just adopt this idea, they elevated it into a national philosophy called Kaizen, which translates to good change. Toyota used Kaizen to grow from a struggling company into one of the largest manufacturers on the planet, not through a single breakthrough, but through thousands upon thousands of tiny daily refinements. And here is what behavioral science tells us about why this works. When you try to make a massive change all at once, your brain interprets that as a threat, and your amygdala triggers a stress response that causes resistance and eventually burnout. But when the change is so small that it feels almost effortless, your brain doesn't fight it. It absorbs it. 1% better today, compounded over a year, makes you 37 times better by the end of it. That is not motivation. That is mathematics. Habit 2. Hara Hachi Bu. Eat until 80% full. On the island of Okinawa, in the southernmost part of Japan, there are more people over the age of 100 per capita than almost anywhere else on Earth. Scientists have been studying this population since 1975 through the Okinawa Centenarian Study, one of the longest-running longevity studies in history, and one of the key habits they keep coming back to is a phrase the elders repeat before every single meal. Hara Hachi Bu. It means eat until your stomach is only 80% full. That is it. No calorie counting, no restrictions, no complicated meal plans. Just stop eating a little sooner than you normally would. The science behind it is elegant. Your brain needs about 15 to 20 minutes to register that your stomach is actually full, so by the time you feel 80% satisfied, you are essentially at capacity. The average Okinawan man consumes about 1,800 calories a day compared to roughly 2,500 in the West. Over decades, that small daily gap translates into dramatically lower rates of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and even dementia. Japan's obesity rate sits around 3 to 4%. In the United States, it is over 40. One tiny habit, one massive difference. Habit 3. Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing. In the 1980s, the Japanese government introduced a public health initiative unlike anything the Western world had ever seen. They told people to go stand in forests, not to hike, not to exercise, just to be there. They called it Shinrin-yoku, which translates to bathing in the forest atmosphere, and it simply means walking slowly through a natural environment with no phone, no agenda, and no destination, just using your senses to absorb what is around you. Studies have since confirmed that as little as 20 minutes in a green environment 3 times per week significantly lowers cortisol levels, reduces blood pressure, and strengthens immune function. You do not need a forest for this. A park, a garden, a quiet trail will do. The point is to stop moving so fast and let nature do what it has been doing for thousands of years, which is calm you down. Habit 4. Kintsugi, turn your damage into gold. In the 15th century, a Japanese shogun named Ashikaga Yoshimasa broke his favorite tea bowl and sent it to China for repair. It came back held together with ugly metal staples. Dissatisfied, he asked Japanese artisans to find a more beautiful solution, and they created something extraordinary. They repaired the cracks with lacquer mixed with powdered gold, so that the breaks themselves became the most beautiful part of the piece. This art form became known as kintsugi, meaning golden joinery, and it evolved into a philosophy that applies far beyond pottery. The idea is that your failures, your scars, and your setbacks are not things to hide or be ashamed of. They are what make you unique, and when you treat them with care instead of disgust, they become your greatest source of strength. In practical terms, this means you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before you take action. You stop pretending that mistakes erase your value. You accept that damage is part of the process, and you keep building anyway. Habit 5. Ikigai. Find your reason to wake up. There is no word for retirement in the traditional Okinawan language. People simply continue doing what gives them purpose until the very end. This concept is called ikigai, which means a reason for being, and it sits at the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can sustain yourself with. One centenarian studied by researchers had an ikigai that was simply caring for his 2 bulls every single morning. It does not need to be grand, it just needs to be yours. Multiple international studies have linked a strong sense of purpose to lower risk of death and significantly reduced rates of heart disease. Habit 6. Mokusu, 60 seconds of silence. In traditional Japanese martial arts, every training session begins with a moment called mokusu, where students close their eyes and sit in complete silence for 60 to 90 seconds. This is not meditation in any complicated sense. It is simply a deliberate pause that separates whatever came before from what is about to happen. Neuroscience has found that even brief intentional silence activates the prefrontal cortex and calms the amygdala, the part of the brain that drives anxiety and reactive decision-making. Try it before your next important task. 60 seconds, eyes closed, nothing else. You will feel the difference immediately. Habit 7. Wabi-sabi. Embrace imperfection. Wabi-sabi is a Zen Buddhist philosophy that finds beauty in what is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. In a world obsessed with polished appearances and flawless execution, Wabi-sabi says the opposite. It says that the crack in the wall, the asymmetry in the design, and the flaw in your plan are not failures. They are authenticity. They are proof that something is real. When you internalize this, perfectionism loses its grip on you, and you finally start moving. Habit 8. Ubaitori. Never compare your growth. The word ubaitori is made up of the characters from 4 different trees that bloom in Japan each spring: the cherry, the apricot, the peach, and the plum. Each one blooms at a different time and in a completely different way, and not a single one of them is wrong for doing so. The lesson is as elegant as it is obvious. Your timeline is not someone else's timeline. Comparing your Chapter 2 to another person's Chapter 20 is the fastest way to poison your own progress. Grow at your own pace, in your own way, and trust the process. Habit 9. Hansei. The evening reflection. The 9th and final habit is hansei, a Japanese practice of honest self-reflection that was central to samurai culture and remains deeply embedded in Japanese education and business to this day. It requires no journal, no app, and no system. At the end of each day, you simply ask yourself 3 questions. What went well today? What could have been better? And what will I carry forward into tomorrow? This habit closes the loop. It takes all of the other 8 practices and turns them from isolated actions into a system of continuous growth. Without reflection, improvement is accidental. With it, improvement becomes inevitable. 9 habits. None of them require money, equipment, or anyone's permission. All of them have been practiced for centuries by some of the healthiest, most disciplined, and longest living people in human history. You do not need to adopt all 9 at once. That would actually go against the very first habit on this list. Just pick one, start tonight, and trust that small, when it is consistent, is the most powerful force there is.